Hey everyone, this is the OnStage Blog Theatre Podcast, and we have a great episode lined up for you today where we're going to vote on the best movie musicals for all the major Oscar categories. But before we get into that, let's introduce ourselves. For those of us joining this podcast for the first time, my name is Greg Ehrhardt. I'm part of the editorial staff of OnStage Blog. And joining me, I've got three wonderful, wonderful guests. First of all, the person who usually hosts this podcast, but because we've got a gimmick on this episode with lots of rules and lots of regulations, is not because I have to do that. Rotten Tomatoes approved critic and theater critic and proprietor of rachelsreviews.com, Rachel Wagner. Hello.
Hi, glad to be here.
And then, of course, we have the founder of OnStage Blog and OnStageBlog.com, Chris Peterson. Chris,
hello.
What's going on?
Thrilled. This is my favorite time of year. I can't wait to get into this. So excited.
And join this podcast for the very first time is OnScreen Blog, which is a section of OnStage Blog, but the chief film critic of OnScreen Blog, Ken Jones. Ken, nice of you to join us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So we have the Fab Four gathered here for this episode, where for the last couple of weeks, you, the audience, have picked for us the 5 nominations for 7 Oscar categories, all of which are movie musicals that have been nominated for an Oscar, and all of which have been released since 1960. That's just our cutoff point to go forward. Kind of arbitrary, but we kind of felt it made sense with all the movies that were eligible. So you voted on the nominees. We have 5 nominees for each category. And then we are going to, the 4 of us are going to reveal our votes. And then after we reveal our votes, we're going to reveal what the audience voted on, because the audience also picked their single winner for each category. And if a movie, director, actor, song, supporting actress, supporting actor got to 3 votes, they are declared the winner. But if they don't get to 3 votes, then we go round and round and we'll have a revote. And we'll debate and see who gets, and we're not leaving here until every single category gets 3 votes as the winner. So, before we get to that, a couple of things. One is, I forgot to mention, once again, thank you for listening to us. We are available on podcasts, all podcast streaming platforms, as well as youtube.com. If you listen to one but the other, make sure you subscribe to all of them just to make sure you don't miss new episodes. And then I think that was it. So let's get right to it. So we're going to start off with Best Supporting Actor. And the nominees were Eddie Murphy from Dreamgirls, John C. Reilly from Chicago, Joel Grey from Cabaret, Leonard Frey from Fiddler on the Roof, and George Chakiris from West Side Story. So what we're going to do is we're going to go rapid fire around the room. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we get to the votes, did anyone have a movie they thought should have been nominated? Meaning, was there any nomination the audience got wrong? Whoever has an opinion, go ahead and speak.
I would have definitely picked Robert Preston, Victoria.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a really strong performance. It's funny and sincere, and yeah. So that's one I would have chosen. Okay, Chris, do you think they got the nominations right?
I did, and I agree with Rachel, though. I think Preston could have been there. For me, he was the 6th place finisher in the group. So I think the audience got it right in terms of the 5 that they picked. But I agree. I think Preston was on that bubble, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. I can't argue with the 5. I thought it was a really solid 5. I think great choices overall. So we have the 5 here. So we're going to reveal our votes, and then the audience vote. Are we ready? You don't know who I'm going to start off with. We're going to rapid fire. Rachel, winner.
I would give Joel Grey, Cabaret.
Ken, winner.
Eddie Murphy, Dreamgirls.
Chris.
George Chakiris, West Side Story.
Eddie Murphy was my pick. Okay, so we've got 2 Eddie Murphys, 1 Joel Grey, and 1 George Chakiris. All right, let's see what the audience picked. The audience picked,
roll,
by a wide margin, Joel Grey from Cabaret. All right. All right.
We
So
got 2, 2, and 1
we
then,
got
right?
2, 2, and 1. Now,
Hmm.
can anyone's vote change? Who is like, I'm locked into my vote? Because I'm locked into Eddie Murphy, personally. I'm locked in. Is anyone else locked in?
I am
I'm
not
locked
locked
in.
in.
Rachel's locked in. Chris is not locked in. Okay.
I'm not
Ken?
locked in, but
Okay.
yeah, I
Rachel,
would
make
say
the
I'm
case for
closer. Sorry.
Rachel, make the case for Joel Grey.
I think that he is by far the most memorable part of the film. He's so captivating and energetic as the MC in Cabaret. I mean, I just saw it for the first time last year, and I was so impressed. I saw it both stage and saw the movie, and I was just so impressed with his performance. It is a supporting performance, but he brings a lot to a small role, and he's just so memorable.
Okay. All right. So let me make the anti-case against Joel Grey, and then I'll make the case for Eddie Murphy. Maybe I'll throw it to Ken for the case for Eddie Murphy, even though you could change your vote, Ken, but I want to get your thoughts. I have two issues with Joel Grey. One is I think he's going to be in. So be transparent. I watched Cabaret for the very first time in the last week, and he's been in my
Same.
nightmares like every day. Like for his performance, like he was like just creepy beyond, which is the point. That's not against him.
I
That's
say
sort
that,
of what
that you
he's
could
meant
be
to.
making a case for it, actually.
Yeah,
Right. That's
memorable.
fair. That's fair. Memorable. Definitely memorable. I just have a hard and I will never litigate whether he should have won that year, although I think the year he won, he's going against the Godfather actors. So that was sort of a tough sell for me. But evaluating against other nominees, especially Eddie Murphy, like his performance is pretty much all in song, which again for a movie musical, that's important. But when comparing it to Eddie Murphy, his performance both in song as well as not in song, like throughout the movie, was just so strong to me, and it was one of the great. Honestly, it's arguably his best performance ever. And he hasn't had a ton of movie performance like that. He's done a lot of comedies and some sort of action movies, but he was robbed, in my opinion, of actually winning. He should have won. Obviously, he didn't win. That's a strike against him and for Joel Grey. But he was. I'm just gonna say it. He was right to storm off the Oscars. He should have won. It was who won instead of him. I forget who won.
Oh,
Isn't Alan Arkin for
Alan Arkin.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was
Little
Alan
Sunshine?
Arkin. That's
Yeah.
right. Alan Arkin had no
That was
business
really
winning.
good too.
Sorry.
The thing is I feel like I've seen this performance of the sort of the boozy, washed up actor, singer, whatever kind of that I feel like I've seen that a lot, and then
Mhm.
it practically every year at the Oscars, one of the best supporting are basically a version of this performance where I have really never seen anything quite like them seeing Cabaret.
That is true.
It is
That is
totally
true.
memorable, totally unique, and everybody's been trying to copy and imitate it ever since.
Ken, do you have anything you want to throw in either for Eddie Murphy or just your thoughts right now?
No, like you said, I did some cramming this week and saw Dreamgirls for the first time. And I'd always, heard that Eddie Murphy got robbed, and knew they stormed out of the Oscars that year. Like you said, I kind of feel like he was justified, and that the general consensus that he got robbed was right. Um, Rachel said that she's seen this kind of role from other, like almost every year, and I agree that it pops up a lot. I just seeing Eddie Murphy do it, I hadn't seen that from him before, and that really impressed me. I think Greg, we were talking about. You said that it was his definitive performance in your eyes.
I thought
I
about it.
wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared to go there initially, but having seen it, I might be there with you.
Yeah, but how
So-
much of the actor's backstory do we put into our giving them an award? Like, it's about the performance, not about where they came from to make that
Mhm.
performance.
Mhm.
Like,
That's fair.
yeah, Joel Grey
Yeah.
is a Broadway pro, so it's not as much a stretch for him to make this performance, but that's kind of irrelevant in a way.
All right. Chris, now before you reveal where your mind is right now, make the quick case for George Chakiris, because in theory, when we're all going to revote, we all could go for George Chakiris. So make the quick case for why you voted for George Chakiris.
Very, very simply, when you watch the original West Side Story, the most interesting characters are Bernardo and Anita. They're the most dimensional. That's why they both won the Academy Award that year. And in terms of when you take someone's performance in the movie, now whether they're a singer, whether they're a dancer, what they're hired to do in that film, George Chakiris is a masterclass in dance. I thought, again, one of the more interesting characters of that movie. And when we talk about the supporting actor role, so to speak, in an Oscar, I don't feel it's something that just is that someone that perfectly contributes to the ensemble. I think in many cases it's someone who ends up carrying the film in a lot of ways. And I think George Chakiris plays a major part of West Side Story, that role. However, do you want me to reveal where my mind is swaying now?
Mm,
Because I feel like I'm the swing vote here.
well, I mean, we all could change. Let's do another vote.
Okay.
Let's do another vote. And then depending on where you vote, we'll get your opinion. All right. We're gonna start with the locked ins. Who is so locked in? I'm saying my locked in vote, Eddie Murphy. Rachel,
So I say Joel Grey.
Joel Gray, Ken.
I still say Eddie Murphy, but I can be persuaded to Chris's side is where
Okay,
where I
audience
would
says
go.
all right, audience says Joel Gray. Chris.
Joel Gray.
No,
Oh.
okay, okay. All right, Joel Gray with 3 votes. Wins the best
For
supporting
that
actor.
reason of carrying the film is Joel Gray carries that entire movie on his back.
So that's what I'll say. Besides him being in my nightmares, he does, and it's one of these things where having seen it, like, even though,
Does leave a mark.
right, he does, right, but when he's on there with number, it's like, oh man, what's happening next? Because I haven't seen the stage version at all, so like, it's like, oh, what is he doing? So right, exactly what you say. He leaves a mark. He is indelible. Having heard the case, I'm still Eddie Murphy, but I no mind. I have no grief against. I have no beef against Joel Gray winning this. All right,
He's a legend. What do you?
Joel Gray with the win. All right, let's do best supporting actress. So
right.
our nominees here are. So by the way, audience, forgive any mispronunciations that I do, and you can correct me on air. By the way, if I get them wrong, so we can get for the record. Ariana Bose.
Close.
DeBose.
Mm-hmm.
For West Side Story, Anne Hathaway, Les Mis, Jennifer Hudson, Dreamgirls, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Chicago, and Rita Moreno, West Side Story, 1962. All right. Does anyone think the audience got the nominations wrong?
I had no changes.
I don't.
Yeah, no.
I don't either. I thought this was the right 5. So bravo to the audience. I thought they got the right 5. Okay. Yeah, Rachel? Good?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
Maybe I might have gone for Peggy Wood, Sound of Music. But it's an interesting group.
At first I blushed at both Ariana DeBose and Rita Moreno both being on there for the same, for basically the same movie.
Both winning for the
and I
same role.
rewatched them both. They both won, and they're both deserving. They're both deserving on this list, after rewatching it. So, in my opinion, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do rapid fire once again, different order this time. Ken, winner is
Rita Moreno, West Side Story.
Chris.
Jennifer Hudson, Dreamgirls.
I'm Rita Moreno. Rachel.
I also agree on Rita Moreno.
That's 3. Once again, Chris is in the minority, and the audience voted for, once again, by a landslide, Rita Moreno from West Side Story with 4 votes.
Wow. Well, clearly the audience knows very little about nuance and power of performance.
They also know what an actual supporting role is, as opposed to a lead performance put into the supporting category.
Well, so I want to get there. That's the reason I actually would have voted for Hudson, because I love her performance. That's not a best supporting act. It's not a best supporting actress performance. Like, and they did it so she could win. I
don't feel like that's too bad a case of category fraud. There's certainly been worse. But again, I feel like I've seen that kind of performance a lot. Like, does it really stand out to me? I mean, Rita Moreno in West Side Story, she owns that movie when she spits in the face of the
Jets.
the Jets.
Sharks.
And
Jets.
yeah,
Jets.
Jets. When she spits in their face, and if I saw one of you on the streets, I would spit on you. And I think all the rest of these are like good. It's hard to give Ariana DeBose for doing what Rita Moreno did. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. And the rest are like solid, but not particularly memorable, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think I actually thought Marina's performance is a bit ahead of her time, just in terms, especially compared with what the rest of the cast was doing, in my opinion, on that. Just again, kind of one of those standout performances. Someone, she jumps off the screen when she's on it. Ken,
She's so good in America too, singing that song.
Ken, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I think Chris said in the last category, like, it's an iconic role and performance. Hudson was second for me, just because I was really blown away by her vocally. Just her ability to like belt out those songs.
Yeah, no question.
Chris, talk about why did you vote for Jennifer Hudson, other than what you've already said? Anything you want to add?
It goes back to my theory of supporting actors shining. It's the one person you leave the movie theater thinking about in that entire cast. No disrespect to Jennifer Holliday, but that's probably the best rendition of "And I'm Not Going" that I've ever heard is for Jennifer Hudson.
It was really good.
And I think when we talk about musical movie performances, which I do believe takes another level of singing and acting ability while you're singing, Jennifer Hudson set a new bar with her performance. And and again, I think she set a new bar that Rita Moreno previously had held. So it's like, they both had a belt at some point about like, that's how you do a movie musical performance on stage. But I will give Rita Moreno her flowers. She's the one Puerto Rican in that actual cast of West Side Story. No brown face there. So kudos to her. Friend of the blog, Rita Moreno. So once liked one of my social media posts. So friend of the blog. That qualifies.
And yet couldn't get your vote.
Couldn't get my vote. Sorry, Rita. Sorry.
If you're listening, Rita, we love you.
Love you, Rita. And congratulations on the win. That's another thing on your mantle. Hang it
it's
proudly.
the EGOT. Like she's got the future. Yeah, the
EGOT.
Let's get to best song.
Yeah.
So this was an interesting nomination list. A lot of great songs on the nomination ballot. The audience voted for four animated Disney songs, and then Chim Chimery from Mary Poppins. The four were Let It Go from Frozen, A Whole New World from Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, and Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid. Did the audience get this nomination list correct?
No.
Chris, who would you have put on this?
And no disrespect to some of these songs, but first of all, I do believe Remember Me from Coco is one of the great songs that we've seen in a movie, period, in the past, this century, I would definitely say. So definitely got that one wrong. Also, When You Believe from Prince of Egypt is an incredible, incredible song. And I could not believe that the audience could not get past their Disney bias to.
So, interestingly, I was following the vote. When You Believe was in the lead for the early vote, like for the first 30 votes or so. Yeah, it was up there. And then I think the media campaign, Harvey Weinstein put out a media campaign against it, and it just tanked its odds.
I think it's just one of those ones the movie's not quite as well remembered as some of these. I mean, these are some of the most iconic movies ever made. And so it's probably more, did people remember that movie and remember that song? I mean, it's one of my favorite movies, but I don't know, I think that's probably more about the movie than about the song.
Yeah.
Greg, if we're saying that one song should be put in, are we taking one out?
You don't have to reveal that because that would tip your hand for the vote, but go ahead. I would have personally Remember Me I would have put in
Mhm.
there. I also would put in "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" from Lion King. I think those are both.
Mm.
I think are both better songs than. I kind of laughed at "Under the Sea" from Little Mermaid. I know it won, but I kind of laughed making this list because obviously "Under the Sea" won against not these other songs, But "Under the Sea" isn't even the best Little Mermaid song, like in the movie. I'm not even sure it's the second best. It's probably the third best at
I
best.
kind of like though that for once the non-ballad won, because
Mhm.
usually, especially during this Disney Renaissance, it was always the ballads that
Yeah,
won. But the number of instruments and the calypso kind of style to the song. I mean, just Howard Ashman was a total genius. And
Mhm.
the only reason I wouldn't pick "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" is I hate the way it's introed in the movie. I can see what's happening and they don't have a clue. And I hate that. And it's this like beautiful song, and it's, they got to make it into a joke.
By the way, at the
So
end of the podcast, Rachel's going to do the entire rendition. At the end of
Rachel's
it,
the
so
musical
just-
performances throughout this entire ceremony. So just so we should have been done it all along, but yes.
the crazy thing about Man or Muppet is that year there were only 3 nominees, which is
Yeah.
just bonkers that they couldn't find 5 songs that year that were not like to nominate.
One of
So
my
weird.
favorite opinions that people hate me for is I can't stand "Man or a Muppet," and I love the Muppets movie, and I think it's like the 7th best song on that soundtrack, and I can't
Love that song.
stand that it's like regarded as the best. I know, a contrarian once again. Yeah, but
Shocker,
no,
right?
it's true. So, audience, thank you for not putting "Man" or a Muppet in the top 5 here, because otherwise, I would have spent this entire podcast railing against that.
Honestly, that might have gotten my vote, and I might have been like unmovable on that.
I do love "Remember Me." That is just one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But I also love "The Colors of the Wind." I'm not a big Pocahontas fan, but that song is beautiful. And
It
Judy
is,
Kuhn
yeah.
and her absolutely beautiful performance was, just unbelievable.
But it's hard because again, the songs we had to knock off: "Beauty and the Beast," iconic;
Yeah.
"Let It Go," beyond iconic in its own way. Like "Let It Go" took over music.
Mhm.
Everyone knew "Let It Go." Like that's how catchy it was. For
Yeah.
the time there. So it's hard to
Yeah.
knock that off.
Unbelievable.
Let's get to the winners. All right.
It's a hard one. This is like
This
picking
is a
a
hard
favorite
one.
child. I love all of these songs.
Rapid fire, starting with me, "Beauty and the Beast." Rachel.
Just as far
Rachel.
as
Quick.
all right, I will go with "Let It Go."
Let It Go. Chris.
Beauty and the Beast.
Ken.
Number 3, Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. All right, let's hit
It's a
the
great
audience. That
song.
has
I mean,
3.
I can't argue with it.
And the audience by not quite a landslide, but by 12 votes. Beauty and the Beast. 4
It's
votes.
Here's the thing about Beauty and the
absolutely
Beast.
perfect.
Argue.
So
It's hard to
Right.
argue. It's probably one of the best, first of all, best love songs ever. Number 2,
yeah,
when we talk about show tunes, and I would actually hold Beauty and the Beast as one of the best movie musicals of all time.
yeah,
Period.
agreed.
And yeah, who can't, when you hear Angela Lansbury sing that song, come on, like immediately, like heartstrings, all the emotions, especially since we just lost
Yeah.
her last year. So, yeah, unbelievable.
Well, and it came at the perfect time in the movie, right? Because it nailed, not only is a song by itself, but in the part of the movie, it was before, at the time, mind-blowing CGI, effects during it. And just the song combined with the scene,
and it really captures the whole
perfect.
message of the movie, of hope and forgiveness and love and yeah.
Tales all the time.
You can't argue with Beauty and the Beast. It is perfect.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You have to go to the direct to VHS sequels to argue with Beauty and the Beast, or the live,
yes, or the live action remake. Oh my gosh, that was terrible.
All right, let's go to Best Actor. Best Actor. Let me just pull up the list here. All right, the 5 nominees the audience selected was Andrew Garfield from Tick, Tick, Boom, Hugh Jackman from Les Mis, Roy Scheider, All That Jazz, Topple from Fiddler on the Roof, and Rex Harrison from My Fair Lady. All right. Did the audience get this right?
Um,
See.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I'm going to say no. I think, um, as strange as this sounds, I do think Ryan Gosling should be in there.
Yeah.
That's me.
Okay.
So am I the only? I bet I'm the only one because he has such a bad reputation now. Shouldn't Johnny Depp have made this list? I mean, that performance was
Yeah.
no. I mean,
He's a
Yeah,
better actor
he's
than
really.
it's not a great singing performance.
Yeah,
right. I know.
that's fair.
That's why I eliminated points for him. But
Right.
acting wise, it's fantastic. I don't think Rex Harrison should be there. That's the hot take, is that
Ooh.
I would replace Rex Harrison with Ryan Gosling.
That's definitely a hot take.
Hot take.
Mhm.
All right. Well, let's get to the voting. Rapid fire. We're gonna go. Chris, best actor. Who wins?
Roy Scheider, all the jazz.
Ken,
Apple, Fiddler on the Roof.
Hugh Jackman, Rachel.
Well, I must say I have not seen all that jazz, so I don't know if that invalidates me, but I pick Andrew Garfield. Tick, tick, boom.
Oh,
my
wow.
goodness.
Here we go.
One vote each for, and the audience voted for by 14 votes. Andrew Garfield from Tick Tick Boom.
Oh, wow.
Well, there are two. Rachel, careful. They're not. haven't gotten it yet. Okay. Let's Chris make a case. Oh, by the way, who's a squish? Who could change their vote? I could change my
mine.
vote.
Okay.
We know
All right.
Rachel's not changing hers based on the last podcast. I think a nuclear bomb could go off and you'll still be clinging on to Andrew Garfield for this one.
Would it help if I revealed my number two?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, it's Roy Scheider and all that jazz. So, Chris, I am persuadable.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
in that case,
well, before you do that, we might say my number two. My number two is probably Andrew Garfield as well, but I could be swayed to Topple as well.
Interesting.
But Chris, make the case, Roy Scheider.
well, I think when you watch all that jazz, there's what I call the actor's journey of a perfect, like, you're seeing the beginning, the range, the depth, the downfall. I mean, all that jazz it's not a fun watch, if you will. And what Scheider goes through in that entire movie, basically playing Bob Fosse, so it's basically an autobiographical film, is I feel just a masterclass in acting that you really get to see from him much in his career. And there are things, especially when he's choreographing, especially there's moments that are just the ending, the last 15 minutes of that movie are incredible. And as much as I love Andrew Garfield, and we just talked about this in the last episode of this podcast, if stacking them up against each other, I think Scheider just has a better all-around performance, playing a character that also we have no expectations of either, because it's not based off of a pre-existing musical. So it's not like we're going in expecting a Jonathan Larson type of portrayal. We're seeing something that's brand new. And yeah, like there's just incredible moments. I love the scene where he's choreographing with his daughter. It's just the two of them in the studio and they're doing this little thing. Just great moments throughout. So yeah, that's why I went to give it to Scheider.
Am I able to convince anybody in Jackman? Like, I feel like now.
I mean,
Sure, no. I'll make the case. I don't think I can get anybody to vote. I don't think I can get three votes to vote for him, but the way he sang and he acted, because you have to do both, even in a movie full where, like Les Mis, where you're just singing the entire time. Like, I don't know if there's anybody else in movies that could have done what Jackman did for a movie. I know it's made that played him on stage.
I don't think he's bad. I'm not in that
Right.
camp. I think he puts his all into it. He tries his best, and I think he's good. But Andrew Garfield became Jonathan Larson to me, and like when I think about Jonathan Larson, I have to step back and be like, oh, okay, that's actual Jonathan Larson. That's what he looks like, not like Andrew Garfield. Like, he just and it was just something I connected with the themes and the story. But even so, like to take such a narcissistic character, such a like kind of selfish character, and give him humanity and warmth, and especially at the end when he breaks down and is just devastated about his friend and everything. I just think there's nuance to that almost anybody can relate to that, and it's so hard to translate a not only a true story, a true character, a true person, but somebody that's fairly fresh. Like it hasn't been gone that long, and so I just love it. But I haven't seen all that jazz, so I can't speak to that.
So I really want to, because as Chris and Kent know, I'm not quite president, probably vice president of the Hugh Jackman fan club. So I'd love to just still vote for him out of protest. So maybe Ken, it might be up to you to make the three. I don't know. Let's do a revote. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
I mean, this kind of persuaded me. Like I went back and forth between Scheider and Topol or Topol, however you pronounce it, in my rankings. So yeah, I thought Scheider was pretty eye-opening.
That's too bad, Ken, because I really was ready to go to Topol if you made the case. But if you're going to Scheider, revote. Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Garfield. You're voting Garfield?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes.
Chris.
Same with Scheider.
Ken.
Yeah, Scheider.
Audience is voting Garfield. It's up to me.
We don't leave until you make a decision, Greg.
I can't. I don't
your rules.
Jack, can't stand still. No. I think I'm going Garfield. I can't get there. I Chris, I can't get there with Scheider. I've seen it. I don't know. I'm not seeing what you're selling. I don't know. Garfield.
The movie's older. I get it. It's an older film.
It was made before 1990. I am out. I am out.
I get it.
And all the listeners, remember who's the one who was in your camp.
That's right.
I made it happen.
Rachel's your hero.
Yes.
All right. Best actress. 5 nominees were Renee Zellweger, Chicago, Liza Minnelli, Cabaret, Barbara Streisand, Funny Girl, Julie Andrews, Sound of Music, Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins. Did the audience get the nominations right? Chris?
Yeah, I can't. Of that, I can't. The one that stuck out for me was Nicole Kidman from Moulin Rouge, but I can't knock any one of those folks off for her. So no, I think the audience got it.
I agree. Rachel?
Yeah, there's nobody that's screaming out to me, not included. If I did, maybe Nicole Kidman for Moulin Rouge.
I don't have a huge issue with this 5. Ken, anything before we get to the
no?
votes?
I mean, I'm kind of partial to Emma Stone, but it's hard to knock anybody out of the list.
Yeah. Okay. We're ready for the vote. Rapid fire. Let's do Ken.
Julie Andrews, Sound of Music.
Chris.
Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins.
Rachel.
Julie Andrews, Sound of Music.
Julie Andrews, Sound of Music for 3.
All right.
Win. Chris, once again in the minority.
For those of you watching this on video, Greg does not keep meaning to use the word minority on this one to describe me.
Stop it. Voting minority, people. Don't. Jeez.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Who's the audience vote? Look at me trying to move this on.
Rachel. Why should by the way, the audience voted for Julie Andrews, Sound of Music. So 4.
Yeah.
That's 4 votes.
Well, it was definitely going to be either of these performances because I don't think the other 3 are all that remarkable. And in the Sound of Music, I think that she is required to go more places when she leaves the Abbey, when she's pleading with the Reverend Mother to let her stay. when they're scared, they're hiding out from the Nazis. She's just, and I mean, I absolutely love and adore Mary Poppins, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, it's just a little bit more one note than the performance in Sound of Music. She kind of has to do a little bit more heavy lifting, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I rewatched this first time in at least 20, from start to finish, first time in at least 20 years. I forgot she has some sass in this movie in Sound of Music.
Yeah.
And she's really good. Again, what you said, like there's a lot of range she has to show, and just totally wins the movie, obviously, given the title character. But she's a complete package from everything you want in an actress in a movie musical. Chris, you voted for Mary Poppins. So why do you think she more deserving Mary Poppins than Sound of Music?
Look, I believe I'm the only person on this podcast that has actually been in the show The Sound of Music. I was cast as a Nazi soldier. Let's put that out there.
Podcast subscribers, you gotta go to YouTube.
But it's hard if you're talking stage, because I really don't like the staging of Mary Poppins, and the movie in Sound of Music is a major upgrade over the stage.
Yes,
definitely.
But this is my thought. I voted for the one Mary Poppins role where she plays the nanny that doesn't end up stealing the father from the household, doesn't become the homewrecker, if you will. I'm kidding. No, I to Rachel's point, I think she does show a lot more range than she does in Sound of Music. Now, I will say in the Sound of Music, Greg, you're right, sassy, rebellious. Maria, how do you solve a problem like Maria? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Now she's this wonderful mother, nanny, and blah, blah, blah. But in Mary Poppins, I feel that there's a more of a, how do I put this, responsibility throughout that entire performance of she has to be this type of person for these children to fix this family. And again, had it not been for that movie Saving Mr. Banks, I would never even thought about this as a realm, but in a way that she's not necessarily transforming the children, she's transforming the father as well without stealing him. But the other thing is there are, again, moments where she's playing a really kind of interesting character, but then you get moments like Feed the Birds, where it's like a completely different vocal performance than we get out of anything in Sound of Music. Sound of Music is great. She's got these sweeping, unbelievable, I mean, probably the most famous, show tune of all time. It kicks off the entire movie, and the second one happens, 20 minutes in. But I do feel in Mary Poppins, there's more of that depth. There's more of that variety. We see, again, that different side of Julie Andrews, if you will. So that's why I went with Mary Poppins.
So what clinched my vote was my daughter. I watched both movies with my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter. She didn't make it like 30 minutes into Mary Poppins. She was locked in for the entire 3 hours for Sound of Music. Yeah. So that's literally what clinched my vote.
Did she vote on the ballot?
I used to watch Sound of Music like on repeat, which is like strange when you think about it, but I loved that movie when I was little.
It still holds up. I really think it's definitely of that era. I think it's a musical that holds up, and it's still really captivating. Not only the music captivating, but the story is captivating as well.
Yeah. I didn't think there were a whole lot of like slow parts or anything in it.
No,
like not a whole lot of fluff.
Chris, do we want to do a revote just so you can officially change your vote for the record?
You want to make it 5 for 5, Chris?
No. Hot take.
Now, what I will say,
go ahead.
The audience vote was very close. Sound of Music only won by 4 votes over Mary Poppins. So it was very close.
That's not surprising.
I mean, it's a great movie and a great performance. So
here's my hot take about Sound of Music. Julie Andrews is the 3rd best acting performance in the entire movie. Oh, slam dunk. Here's your hot take.
Like Plumber and
the woman who plays the Mother Abyss. There you go. Mother Superior.
Oh no, not now. What on?
And done.
No,
I'm sorry. The actress that plays Brigitte is a better actress than
Julie Andrews.
Now we're off the rails. Now we're off the rails. Chris is just hurt because he is barely. Have you got the winning? There's a winning side, but have you voted with majority once? But he's just a little hurt right now. All right, let's do. All right, we have 2 more categories to go. Best director. The nominees were Rob Marshall, Chicago, Bob Fosse, Cabaret, Robert Wise, Sound of Music, Robert Stevenson, Mary Poppins, and then Jerome Robbins, Robert Wise, West Side Story. Did the audience get this 5 right?
No.
Okay. Chris?
I
That
would have.
requires an explanation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, first of all, they got the wrong Bob Fosse nomination, so they should have been all that jazz. I would also bump Rob Marshall. No disrespect, but I would throw George Cukor in there for My Fair Lady.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kukor or Norman Jewison.
Yeah, I
and
agree with
bump
that.
out Marshall.
Not what about so I thought Spielberg for West Side Story should have been this 5. That was sort of my take after
It is a
rewatching it.
beautifully directed movie. Those long takes and the way that yeah. I mean, I'm not like the biggest La La Land fan in the world, but I do think it is a beautifully directed film. The way it is filmed and staged.
So we have a lot of issues with the nominations. This is the one that the audience may have gotten totally wrong. This is what I'm hearing.
I don't know necessarily wrong, but there's so many like quality options.
Okay, right or wrong? This is a duality.
I don't think that Chicago is particularly well directed. The way it's edited is so choppy that I think it takes away from some of the scope and feel. And so it's not like a bad movie, but as far as the directing, no, I wouldn't put that one in there.
Yeah.
And I would say the directing Cabaret is just like serviceable. It's fine, but nothing special.
Okay. Well, these are the nominations we have to vote from. So, once again, rapid fire. We're going to start with me, Rob Marshall, Chicago. Chris.
Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise for West Side Story.
Ken.
Robert Wise, Sound of Music.
Rachel.
Jerome Robbins, Robert Wise for West Side Story.
Okay, and the audience. So we have 2 for 1962 West Side Story. Wow. The winner is by 4 votes, Chicago. Rob Marshall, Chicago. So 2 votes for Rob Marshall, 2 votes for West Side Story.
So I'm the swing vote.
Oh, Ken's the swing vote. Okay. Who'd you vote for again, Ken?
I picked Sound of Music, Robert Wise.
Oh, okay. Okay. That was my second choice. That was my second place. Yeah. Okay.
Second choice.
So, Rachel, you just I can't use vulgar language here.
I think the editing is really choppy in Chicago. I think that because they're trying to hide the fact that most of these people aren't good dancers, and so they have to quick cut, and make it look like they're dancing good, and so it works. It's effective, but I don't think it's particularly the best out of all these.
Yeah, well, let me make the case for it. The reason, and I had a tough one I had a hard one with this. I picked this Rob Marshall because almost for the reasons you kind of said was I thought he over directed it to get to the product it was. It did win Best Picture. There's questions whether it was really deserving Best Picture, but it most came off to me like this is the closest. I don't know if it's the closest thing, but I know I've never seen Chicago on stage, but I know exactly how Chicago would be on stage, having seen this movie. At least that's how I feel. Like it seemed like a very faithful adaptation. And I think kind of a hard musical to do in a movie without getting pretty wonky, with some of the choices that they had to make. It was still pretty catchy, and I think he did a heck of a job making it catchy. And I think the quick cuts, worked in its favor because Chicago, the movie, is a little bit chaotic in terms of what the story is and what's happening. So I think he directed the best it could have done. I think he overperformed. I would, in my opinion, he overperformed to get it to the level that it did, which was a nomination and the win. Let's get to Chris.
Can I just say?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I am not going to be changing my vote to Chicago. So I'm squishy, but I am firm on that one.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'm either persuading someone to Sound of Music, or I'm being persuaded to West Side Story.
Chris,
one of the two
make the case for West Side Story.
Well, it's one half, so it's half and half. So you have Jerome Robbins' side of it. It's probably the greatest example of choreography on movie musical history, period. The opening sequence is amazing. It's a standard. It's been parodied many, many times. But yeah, no, I think the choreography is perfect in that movie. So that's the Jerome Robbins side. From the Robert Wise side, again, what Robert Wise was able to do, and to Ken's point, I think it's also he was able to do this in Sound of Music. You have these epic locations, epic themes, but you don't lose sight of what's happening in front of you. You're always focused on the actors and what's happening in that circle. And there are moments in that movie that he captures so perfectly from a distance, from up close. The pacing is incredible. Both Sound of Music and West Side Story are very long movies. You couldn't tell because of that. Not to denigrate Chicago, but I don't see the mastery in Chicago of a director. I see the mastery of choreography, editing, cinematography, design. And if the director's job is just to put that all together, then okay, fine. But I don't see that artistry there of Rob Marshall. And we see that in West Side Story. So there you go.
I mean,
Rachel, anything you want to add?
You can snap and people being think, oh, West Side Story. Like it's so iconic. That introduction, the first opening sequence is so well staged and establishes such tone. And the way they uses light and color and throughout is just so impactful when they go to the dance, and that you have Maria, the only one in white, and he sees her from across the room, and the way that that's lit and staged and everything, all the different factors that go into that scene are so memorable. And I don't even think the two actors have really good chemistry at all. So they're able to make it work, make a love story work in spite of the fact that the two actors don't really work well together. So yeah, I don't know. I just think as far as direction, it's the clear best.
We're not going to deduct any points for the whitewashing of the cast. I mean, that does fall on the director. He's in charge of casting. Or we could just blame Hollywood or society at the point. I'm just asking.
That's a fair point.
That's
a fair point.
All right, let's do a revote. All right, we know Rachel, revote, same.
Yes, same.
Chris,
same.
I'm going to change my vote to Sound of Music.
Oh.
Ken, you did convince me to change it from Chicago, so I listened, and I'm not changing West Side Story. Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, that's a tough one because I'm tempted to switch my vote.
West Side Story.
All right, West Side Story. It really.
Ken, we could have had the Sound of Music. We could have made the case for Sound of Music. Really quickly, I do think Sound of Music. There was some really good directing going on in that. I think, especially in the back half of the movie, like even just a choice for the sweeping shots of the mountains, and stuff in the early on was really good. Really good, great decision, to sort of set the scene. But good arguments and good case for West Side Story. The thing I still get hung up on is just like, didn't Spielberg do a better job directing that movie than Robbins and Wise? I don't know. That's just
for shame.
I think some of those long takes are so beautiful in West Side Story. The new one, I do think they have better chemistry in the new one. So, I don't know.
I was gonna say both movies are equally problematic with casting. Let's just put that out there. Number two, with Sound of Music, if anybody's rewatching Sound of Music, I will concede Robert Wise, I think, does an incredible job in the non-musical sequences in Sound of Music. There is incredible directing there. Especially with all the stuff with Christopher Plummer. But in West Side Story, it's the whole thing. So
musical sequences are pretty great in Sound of Music. Not that I'm trying to dissuade. I mean,
disagree, Rachel. Let him have it.
I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that. But they're wonderful films. So what are you gonna do?
All right, it's time. It's time for Best Picture. Best Picture. The 5 nominees for Chicago. I think we all know your thoughts on Chicago. Beauty and the Beast, The Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, and West Side Story.
Just to clarify, which West Side Story for the
Oh, I'm sorry,
podcast fans?
1962, West Side Story. Did they get the nominations right?
Oh, it's so hard.
Right, because who are you knocking off? Well, we know someone's knocking off Chicago. Probably you too. But
I don't think it's a
Yeah,
bad movie. I just
Chicago
don't think
doesn't
it's-
reach the levels of Fiddler on the Roof for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do.
yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Again, not to keep beating a dead horse, but man, I don't know. West Side Story 2021 has got a right to be on this list too.
It's a
My
beautiful
opinion,
movie.
but
I really enjoyed it.
And
Especially
I
for
also have a soft
Chicago.
spot for La La Land too. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like La La Land. I just
What?
think it was a little overhyped.
I think the audience agreed because I don't think La La Land made any of these categories. It
Wow.
got a number of had a number of nominations, but they got
Yeah.
these categories. Okay, all right.
This is
Let's
so hard.
I'm
It's so hard.
gonna go first and then rapid fire.
Yeah, go to me last.
I'm going Sound of Music. Ken,
Beauty and the Beast.
Chris,
West Side Story.
Rachel.
Beauty and the Beast. I think it's a perfect film.
Hey,
Okay, the audience went West Side Story.
Mm.
Really? That
We got
surprised
two West Side
me.
Stories and two Beauty and the
Greg,
Beast.
I was kind of hoping that you would announce La La Land and then be like, no, I'm sorry. Wait, it's West Side Story, I swear.
So West Side Story won by 7 votes in the audience vote. Sound of Music was
Interesting.
second.
That surprises me. That's surprised me.
Chicago was third. We'll release, by the way, all these votes on the blog. Now that the voting is done, I think people can see who won what. So Chicago was third. Mary Poppins fourth. Beauty and the Beast was fifth.
Really?
That's so
Wow.
sad. That makes
All
me
right.
sad.
We'll pretend I'm the squish vote because I went Sound of Music, and I could change my mind. So we've heard about West Side Story a bit. Ken, make the case for Beauty and the Beast.
So I rewatched that this afternoon actually, before we recorded. I like that it's I mean the songs, I love the songs. I mean maybe this is like a little like nostalgia vote for me because you watch it so many times when you're a kid growing up. But just yeah, the music, the animation, the story, just a full package for me. It was it's a great trip down memory lane there. So
Rachel, Beauty and the Beast.
I think it's a perfect film. I mean, I think it is absolutely beautifully animated. The music is so wonderful. The way it draws you in from the very beginning with the bell song, her walking through the town, and we get to know her character immediately. The villain is absolutely hilarious and so well done. To see everyone's favorite guy turned into a monster by the end, and she even says it, he's no monster, Gaston, you are. The way that the animators captured light and color is so beautiful. The way, especially in that mob scene when they're storming the castle and you see the fear in the items, but it's also funny. It's also it's also sweet and emotional at times when he lets her go, and he finally learned to love, and it's got a beautiful message. Whereas, like, let's be honest, the message in West Side Story a little problematic, and they didn't have very good chemistry, the two, and so Beauty and the Beast, it's beloved for a reason. It was the first animated film to ever get nominated for Best Picture. Only two others, I think, have been nominated since for Best Picture. It was Howard Ashman writing the songs on his deathbed, and the whole thing is just special and beautiful, and yeah. That's my
yeah, I would say the animation is so much better than I remember
so
just watching
good.
it today. I was blown away. Like that opening shot with like there's like layers to like moving through the woods to the castle. Just like what a stunning opening animated shot.
Yeah.
Chris, why should why should I vote for West Side Story over Beauty and the Beast?
This was a point that I was saving for this discussion. And I didn't bring it up during directing. And I will concede that Beauty and the Beast is the greatest animated movie musical of all time, period. Full stop. Having said that, West Side Story is one of the 10 best movies of all time, period. It is the greatest movie musical of all time. It is, in my mind, right up there. With The Godfather, it's right up there with Citizen Kane. It's right up there with everything because it's the whole package. Now, I will say this. The thing about West Side Story is one of the greatest musicals of all time. It's one of the best scores ever written, period. I mean, what Jerome Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim, I mean, you're talking about a murderer's row of creative team. There's an amazing picture behind the scenes of Sondheim, Bernstein, Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise, just all these like greats that were part of this. You can make an argument that it was a change agent for the way movie musicals would be done after. So if you look at before West Side Story, it's a lot of those Broadway melodies of 1942, Singing in the Rains, like da 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 hobby. With West Side Story came out, that was just like Rent was for musicals, Hamilton. You got these generational shifts, continental shifts, whatever they're called. West Side Story is one of those. You could also say, just playing devil's advocate, you could also say the same for Beauty and the Beast. It changed the way that animation movie musicals was done after that as well. So, man, tough. However, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if I could make a counterpoint, like we are having the debate of is the West Side Story 2022 a better version of this film? There is no human being on the planet that thinks the 2017 version of Beauty and the Beast is better than this version. That is not up for discussion.
And that's where I'm getting hung up on, because Chris, you make some really great points. And like, I will never denigrate the original West Side Story, even if it's problematic casting and just some really weird dated stuff going on in the movie. It was a movie of its time. It has to be evaluated as such as a standalone movie. But when we're comparing it next to the Steven Spielberg version, and also again, this is a movie we're voting on with other more current musicals, movie of this time. I'm just getting hung up. That's the part I'm getting hung up on. Right. I don't know.
I wasn't going to do this, but it's time for me to denigrate the Steven Spielberg 2021 West Side Story. Okay. So I'm going to give you my raw reaction of what I thought of when I walked out of that movie theater. Ready? Here's what it was. Number one, where was the dancing in that movie? Where was it? If you watch that movie, there's the gym scene, and then there's the opening number, which half, America. I guess you could say, kind of, and then you get kind of a little bit of America. With the original one, there is dancing all over the place, like Officer Krupke. It's more ballet opposed to what the Jets were doing in the beginning of the movie, which is very confusing. There's one of the greatest choreographed numbers of all time, which is Cool in the parking garage of the original, is unbelievable. You want to talk about before its time, the way they shot that, the way they filmed that. When they did that in the remake, it was god awful. That's number one. Number two, I don't
know if I go that far, but it was stronger.
Number two, top to bottom, you have a better acting ensemble in the original than you do in the remake.
Oh no!
Top to bottom, you have a better acting ensemble than you. Excuse me, 2 Academy Award winners in the original. There's only 1 Academy Award winner in the remake. Bernardo didn't even get nominated in the remake. Number two, yes, Natalie Portman did Brownface, but Ansel Elgort was also a terrible human being. But anyway, I'm pulling out all the stuff.
Greg, is this persuading you at all?
Also, I would argue.
I'm enjoying this. I mean, I don't know if I'm persuading, but I'm enjoying this.
This is my hot take. This is the hottest take of all. The 21-22 West Side Story was completely unnecessary. It didn't need to exist. Period. No one was calling for it. No one was begging for it. And when they announced it, people were like, wait, they're going to remake West Side Story? The first one is like the standard. It's one of the greatest. It's the greatest movie musical of all time. And Spielberg wants to take a stab at it because of his vanity and his ego. And he just has to have that amazingness to his career.
the problem is, I think it's only the greatest of all time for people who grew up with the musical. If you watched it before you were 20 years old, like you're watching it fresh now. I don't know. I don't know if modern audience.
Sir, that movie is a textbook. It is a
Just-
master class. It should be taught in classrooms and film
That's
classes.
fine. I would never dispute it. I don't even hate the movie. I mean, I like it. But
And the audience agrees. So the audience
does agree. You have the audience.
Yeah, which
Lately,
surprises
audience.
me. It really does surprise me. But I mean, Richard Beymer was practically like ashamed of his performance in the movie. Like, it's sad. You hear interviews of him, and he hated it, and you could just feel that in the role. And I have to say, in the new version, not that this is the topic, but they do actually sing. Both of the leads actually sing their performances as opposed to the original. I think that all I'm saying is there's not a human being in the world who would say that 2017 Beauty and the Beast is better. But there are human beings, some on this panel, that would say that the 2020 Website Story is better.
I like the new Beauty and the Beast better than the original. That was the hot take I was waiting for. Yeah, I prefer Emma Watson. No. God,
and it was the first animated film to ever get nominated for Best Picture. Talk about a glass ceiling there. I mean, that it is for so long, anything that was animated was seen, and still to this day is seen as, for children, not worthy of respect, not worthy of recognition. That's just like a lesser form of moviedom, and which is ridiculous on so many levels. And so the fact that it got a Best Picture when there's only 5 nominees at the time is emblematic of how special it is.
But it didn't win.
Like, when it comes to awards, like, animation is like second-class citizens.
Silence of the Lambs.
All right.
End of the day.
Ken, are you thinking of changing your vote or no?
Not right now.
No.
Not as of now.
All right. I'm changing my vote to Chicago. I'm kidding. This is hard. Yeah, you both have compelling arguments. My hang up with Beauty and the Beast is it's the only animated movie on this, and can really make the animated movie the best movie musical since 1960 of Oscar, obviously of ones that are Oscar nominated.
I mean, animated movies.
Because there's no human performances that I can compare it. There's no human I get voice performances.
I mean, they're all
obviously.
vocal performances. Yeah.
Right. No, yeah. The singing is obviously the same, but it's a little different when you're singing behind, in a studio versus singing on set, stuff like that. But the
animators really own particular characters that they like. Glenn Keane animating Ariel, and so in a way that it's just different. So that's fair.
So that's funny. I was planning on being a lock on my Sound of Music pick, which we even talked about for best musical.
I love Sound of Music, so
maybe I'll get Rachel to switch to Sound of Music. Because Sound of Music to me was also a great synthesis of drama and singing, but also had a happy ending versus West Side Story, which is also a good synthesis of drama and singing, but has a very grim ending. It's kind of a dour message.
Yeah. I mean, and I do give Sound of Music a lot of credit because it's one of the only cases where it elevates above the stage. It's much better, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
Than the original source material.
Okay.
Greg,
I've made my decision. Let's do a revote.
All right.
Chris.
West Side Story.
Rachel.
Beauty and the Beast.
Ken.
Beauty and the Beast.
Audience votes for West Side Story. My decision is West Side Story is a vote, and the winner.
I win.
Here's why I went West Side Story. So I think, Chris, you
win nothing
about dancing. I think was really important because that's what Beauty and the Beast doesn't have. The movie musical should have really good dancing, and the choreography in West Side Story was ahead of its time. I think, as you said, is still being often imitated. Even the 2000 the Spielberg version imitated it in the dancing it did have a lot. it is iconic, and I think it's deserving of the movie musical.
I did too good a job of defending the directors of West Side Story. But there is the ballroom scene in Beauty and the Beast. There's some dancing, and Be Our Guest that has all the dancing.
Look, second place is a trophy. Beauty and the Beast will be happy to hold up as well. That's okay.
They've got like dancing with spoons. Be our guest. Be our guest.
So, this was meant to be in fun. Obviously, we had some arbitrary cutoffs here in terms of the eligibility, and we had the audience vote for the nominations. And, I think it was, I think it was worth it to have, again, some of these musicals, I think both Ken, you and I watched for the first time the last week.
Watched sort of appropriate.
Right. But we watched it with really fresh eyes. And again, like when we're talking about the regular Oscars, they're watching movies for the first time and they're just reacting to it. It's not like they watch it in the theaters and we watch it 10 times. So it's a good mix. And then Chris and Rachel, obviously you guys are the movie musical experts. You've seen all these movies, dozens of times. So
now I will watch all that jazz. I'm sorry that I missed that.
Well, okay, right. Ding, right.
Yeah.
And then the audience, of course, our audience is all movie musical avid enthusiasts, and they had their vote as well. So it was, the whole purpose of this is to be fun, have some good discussion, and obviously talk about it. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? What votes would you want to have a do-over? If you had to vote again, let us know on social media, on Twitter at OnStage Blog, Facebook at OnStage Blog. You can let us know. Chris, we still have that Facebook group, right? The Green Room.
Yes, it's still active. So yeah,
still active.
If you're interested in joining, just look up the OnStage Blog Green Room, and we'll approve your entrance into an exclusive club of discussion and ads and all that fun stuff. So yeah.
All right, very good. That does wrap up this episode. Ken, Chris, Rachel, thank you for joining. If you like this episode and you want to stay tuned for future episodes, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening on any of the podcast streamers, hit subscribe there as well. We will be publishing episodes. We don't quite have a regular schedule yet because we're still working around various schedules around here, but we're definitely doing at least 2 a month. We're going to try and do up to 4 a month, and we'll always publish updates on our social media feeds. Rachel, I think you will be as well. Make sure you follow Rachel as well on Twitter at Rachel's Reviews. Anything else you want to plug, Rachel, while you're here?
Yeah, well, check out Rachel's Reviews. I've reviewed the entire Disney canon several times on my content. So if you're a big Disney fan, I've got tons of that. Plus, I'm going to be starting my yearly classic musical month. So that's going to be super fun. And I have a bunch of classic musical reviews as well over on my channel. So take a look.
Of course, Ken does movie reviews at OnScreen Blog, which has also a Twitter account at OnScreen Blog, where we tweet out Ken's movie reviews as well as our movie commentary as it goes on. Stay tuned as well. We should be doing the Oscar, where we bring back the Oscar King challenge, where you compete against us as far as how successfully you can pick all the Oscar winners for this year. I think we got some really good categories, and we'll have a couple prizes as well if you can beat us, and if you can just beat the audience. So stay tuned for social media for that. Any parting words from anybody?
No,
thank you.
Great movies. Great
movies. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
Hi everyone.